All right. Final topic for the day. Pulling a little audible here. We were going to talk about reviews and stuff. And because Eurogamer announced that they have a different review scale and all this stuff. I want that to be a nice, really fleshed out topic we discuss. We'll do that next week. For today, we're going to talk about another piece of huge news that dropped.
Huge.
And that's Netflix Netflix is developing Legend of Zelda series. What do you guys think about this? And more so, we already, again, discussed this on youtube.com/kindafunny in a Reacts video. Mainly, what other video game franchises do you think would fit the Netflix model of seasons at a time coming out and getting that type of the appeal of the Netflix audience?
Any. I mean, I just think that my personal stance on this is Netflix is the perfect platform for this. I think the days, I'm all caught up to Walking Dead now. The idea of having to wait another week to watch Walking Dead annoys me, let alone having to wait, having someone out there who's making the content be the gatekeeper to me wanting to consume the content, which is kind of anti-video games. When you sit with a video game, you can take a day off, or you can come back to it, you can play the whole thing straightforward. I think that's the experience a lot of people are used to, especially with a game like Zelda. I think you marathon, for all intents and purposes, you marathon that game. Yeah. You have it, you're going to play the hell out of it. And if it's anything like the storytelling in the game, I want to be able to experience that all in one season. I want them to do what they do at the BBC, which is they'll make 3 or 4 really, really long, really great episodes of something, and you get to consume those all at once on Netflix. So I think it's great, and also it's just like HBO. You can put anything out. There's no barrier to the stories you can tell or what you can show or what you can do with that. Not that they have to get particularly risque for a Legend of Zelda.
They do in my book.
Are you kidding me?
But if they were to do a Last of Us series,
oh my god!
Hey, I'm naked. I'm over here. Hey. But if it had something like The Last of Us, which was I would totally watch that on Netflix.
That's what I think. You're saying what other games fit in this Netflix model? Anything story driven. I would be way more excited for the Last of Us movie, for the Uncharted movie, for the Siphon Filter movie if they were the Uncharted Last of Us Siphon Filter Netflix show.
Yeah, man, because that's the thing. Netflix does so well where here's a season and it essentially is a movie.
It's a giant movie.
Think of it as a television series where there's cliffhangers and all that stuff. I mean, they're going to naturally do that, but you don't need to make the plot fit so that every half hour or hour this huge event happens.
Exactly. Imagine if they did they did multiple Uncharted seasons and everyone was a different game or a different treasure he's after, right? Like that would make more sense to me than trying to shove everything into a 2-hour movie.
Man, Uncharted, that would be a good one.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I mean,
mic drop.
Damn. I don't know. I'd like to see anything. The other thing
I'd like to see anything.
No, I like Netflix's mentality. Right now, there's a huge divide between what Netflix is doing and what traditional mainstream networks are doing, like CBS and NBC. They're still caught up in this concept of a pilot season. Netflix goes, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be. We're not going to force the audience to watch 7 seasons of a show just because we're based on a sponsored ad rev model. We're gonna go all in on this show that we really believe in, show you that we believe in it, throw a ton of money at it, bring top tier Hollywood talent like Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright and David Fincher, who did, if you remember, he did the first couple episodes of the first episode and produced House of Cards, which is dropping, I believe, at the end of this month, right? The 27th.
Yeah, it accidentally went up for 20 minutes today. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, and they pulled it down.
I would have totally watched it. I would have watched all 20 minutes of what I could have.
You would have gone to 22 different devices and started an episode.
That's actually brilliant.
This is why I like Netflix and this is why I like HBO, is because they don't have to play by those rules. And so if you want to make, for some wild reason they were like, let's do a Metal Gear series, right? They could do 16 episodes of that if they wanted to. They could do 10 episodes of that. They could do 6 episodes.
That's enough. Anything with a story, man. Because that's the thing about games. Games are like 20 hours long and tell you this awesome story.
I mean, that was the. I mean, when the question was brought up, that Metal Gear is what came to my mind.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear. That would be so. Like, Greg, you just said it, that like Uncharted would be good because it's not just a movie; it'd be the series. But I think Metal Gear's perfect for that. Yeah. A 1 season being Metal Gear 1.
Yeah,
my God.
And that's the other thing too, is you can do different types of stories with on a platform like Netflix. You don't have to do them based. You can just do a standalone story, do a standalone movie, do a 30-minute episode of something, right?
Well, that's true.
Like you can do whatever you want. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you go back and look at the times for House of Cards, they're all over the map within a varying degree of difference, right? a standard episode of television has to be a specific amount.
22 minutes or
exactly
48 minutes.
Some of the episodes of House of Cards are like 50 minutes, some were like 44. They don't care. And also, you don't have to have like a monster of the week in these. You don't have to go 22 episodes. And again, you don't have to do what unfortunately happens to every television show that's on the major networks is that eventually it runs its course, but it's still making money. So they find a way to do
26 more seasons.
Episodes. 52 more episodes, 70,000 more episodes. Like, hey, we're supposed to end this story in 3 seasons, but you know what? Lost is really popular. Let's put them on a barge for an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, FYI, that throws off every plan we possibly had for this wrapping up in any sort of concise way. So now, guess what? They're just in space or whatever the hell that last episode happened to be.
Purgatory.
I was trying to
exactly where everyone thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
If you're just watching Lost and I spoiled it for you, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry twice. First for telling you to go fuck yourself. Secondly for spoiling it, but go fuck yourself.
Well, taking a step back here, do you guys think, and Colin, I kind of want your input on this, do you think that Zelda works for this?
I personally don't see how it's going to work, but I'm interested to see. There's 2 things I'm interested in this. A, Link is a silent protagonist. So how are they going to spin Zelda into a way where Link becomes a character? Because Link is really an avatar. He's not a character.
Right.
And he's also many different characters. So the Link in various games is not necessarily the same Link. It's always just the hero, right? So that's one thing that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you can point to the I'm wearing my Majora's Mask shirt, but the only Zelda game in my mind that has a deep, different story is Majora's Mask, and it's so like, is that a story you're going to tell? What is the story?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What the fuck is the story?
See, that's the thing. Like, I would imagine that it would just be kind of inspired by all of the different stories and kind of like bits and pieces here and there. If they're going to go all out and do this, like, let's just pretend that it's going to be good. So I'm not saying it's gonna be, but like pretend that like they're gonna pull a House of Cards or something and actually put the right people on this project and not make a video game movie out of this. They're trying to do this right. I'm gonna assume that it's the same question as what's the next Zelda gonna be about. It's like, I don't know. They're gonna come up with something though. It's the same idea. It's more about the core of it. And like Link being silent, like I think if Link had a voice, it would be like Han Solo. I'm not Han Solo, like Luke Skywalker, not Han Solo. Just very like.
Young and he's
young
learning
and whiny and learning and all that stuff.
And by the end, he's the man. He's the hero of time.
Exactly.
It's possible, but I don't necessarily compare it to like the Wii U Zelda in the sense that the Wii U Zelda is, unless they're just flipping the fucking script entirely, is just going to be another Zelda game. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be fun to play. I don't think
Skyrim Zelda though.
I don't think people are, but I don't. Maybe it looks like it.
Yeah.
But people, I don't think. I mean, I've never played Zelda for the story. There are 2 Zelda games that resonate with me from a story standpoint. Zelda 2, because of how creepy it is and how weird it is, and Zelda Majora's Mask. Other than that,
for the same reasons.
Yeah, both just weird. They're just both weird games, right? But like the original Zelda and Zelda's like A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, it's like there's different nuggets in there of story, but they're basically just the same game. You go like from dungeon to dungeon, and so I'm most curious about how they solve that problem and make Link not an avatar but a character, because Link is not a character. I love Link. I have a Link statue, action figure in my bedroom. I grew up on those games. I love them. I used to write about them at GameFAQs before I was in the industry. But I like them for gameplay and for the uniqueness of the dungeon solving and all that kind of stuff, but not for the story. So when I heard about this, I'm like, this is interesting. And we brought it up on Colin and Greg Live, where I'm like, Zelda doesn't even sell that well. It is like one of those, it's one of the best selling series, like top 20 series of all time, but it's old and there's lots of entries in it. But Skyward Sword sold fewer than 4 million copies. So when I look at something like that, I'm like, why not Metroid? Why not,
Metroid
something
would probably be easier.
It's like, but like something with really? Story, even something like Star Fox
not
or something.
Not from a budget standpoint, but from a storytelling standpoint.
Bounty Hunter has to fight all these aliens.
It's just a lot easier, I think, to work in and to kind of get across to the general public. Like, okay, this is sci-fi, this is space adventure. It's very hot right now because we got Guardians of the Galaxy, we got Star Wars coming up.
Yeah, but I mean, the Zelda stuff they're driving at's hot too with Game of Thrones.
I mean,
like,
I think
but
it's
it's a complete and total. It's a complete and total different. I mean, you can maybe ride a little bit of the coattails of Game of Thrones. When I think Game of Thrones, I think sex, I think violence, I think politics.
About that. Now think of all that, but for an audience that can, like an all ages audience. Yeah, so take out the sex, obviously. But
you gotta take out the sex. You gotta take out the violence. They don't.
If you're fighting a giant spider, no, you don't.
That's true. My only concern with this, and this is again, I'm not coming at it as a huge fan of Zelda. I just kind of want to see awesome. I mean, this is one of those instances where I'm like, that's off the wall. I'm all for it. Like, and Netflix is an off the wall kind of company where you're like, there's no way that's gonna
Here
work.
at Netflix, we're off the wall.
Well, no, when they talked about House of Cards, I was like, dude, you guys are gonna hemorrhage money on that, and it's not gonna work. And it worked, and it drove a ton of new subscribers. This will drive a ton of new subscribers too, from different probably age bracket.
That's what I'm saying is I understand when I said this on Colin and Greg Live too with Colin. I understand what he's saying about it not being a franchise that sells a gajillion copies of every game, but I think it's just because the people who played them and loved them have moved on. Maybe they played it on their NES and stopped playing games. Maybe they played it on Super NES and stopped playing games. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They went to a different platform or something like that. It's a touchstone for people. People love the Triforce. People identify the Triforce. Yeah. They understand who Zelda is. You know what I mean? Like, they want to be part of that world. And this is a world that all of a sudden it isn't a 40-hour commitment or of whatever, 99 hours in Skyward Sword doing this.
It doesn't matter how well it sells because people need to buy this. This is just the easy way in. Yeah. Like, my mom knows Zelda.
Sure.
You know, she doesn't know what it is, but she knows it's important. And so if my mom was on Netflix and it said, you know, here's a new series, Legend of Zelda, and it like looked, if it was being shoved in her face like Netflix would, she'd probably.
Oh no, it will. And every time you sign on to Netflix, when that thing's up, you're going to see that first and foremost.
You'll see Link with the sword like this, and you'll have Zelda over here and Ganondorf over there, and there you go.
That'll be it.
Lots of triangles for some reason.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, you know, about 7 years ago, we did that April Fool's Zelda. And there was, obviously, that was for IGN, which was like a very, very hardcore audience of Zelda fans. But there is such a desire to see a live action version of anything Nintendo. Largely because, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but they have never really had sort of a home run when it comes to making something live action out of
Super Mario Brothers show.
Super show?
Yeah.
My God,
Captain Lou Albano, rest in peace.
Well, I don't think anyone's really had too much success.
No, they haven't, and that's the thing. I think this might be. Well, I don't think people have thrown a lot of resources. I haven't seen a great team come together to be like, we're gonna take this video game property that everyone loves and really treat it from a unique angle that can you know, both be true to its roots and also bring it into a new audience. That is my one big hesitation with this, is that if there's one company out there that I worry is not going to take a risk, and I worry is not going to be like, okay, Netflix, we trust you, go for it. It's Nintendo. I guarantee they're going to be scrutinizing every decision, and I don't see this coming to light.
See, that's true, but at the same time, like, obviously TV would be very different than video games, and since it's their first big one, they would like be a little more hands-on, presumably. But with the Zelda series, they've given it to Capcom. They've given it to like these other teams to like just kind of go and like do stuff.
But they weren't off the wall. Like, you know, Oracle's, for instance, wasn't like that different. They were good.
I mean, Hyrule Warriors, though, that was different.
Yeah, and that's a Musou, and that's true. That's true. That's a good point. But I agree with Nick in the sense that a few things came to mind when I heard this. First is like, I'm not so sure this is true. Then I saw it was a Wall Street Journal. I'm like, okay, so it's true. Then I was like, how can this possibly work? Mm-hmm. Knowing that Nintendo is an old school Japanese company, you know, and they do scrutinize everything, and they are slow, and they don't seem to understand a lot of things, frankly, about the way the world works today. I think we've beaten that fucking horse so much that it's alive again.
Jesus.
But I agree.
It's hard.
I agree with Nick.
It's up and running.
I agree. It's bad. This is an embryonic idea that's not even in pre-production. I sense that this is probably not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
And I think it's not because it couldn't happen. I think there's very clever people out there that can do something with it. But again, I was racking my brain when this was announced, and I'm like, why Zelda? And I understand that there's like, it resonates with people, and people do know it. And Zelda's an important franchise and stuff, but it has this long tail, this long history of at this point, 87, so like almost 30 years, like 25 years. Mm-hmm. So, you know, to me, it's like, okay, this makes sense from that point of view, and obviously Zelda is important. Zelda's gonna sell millions of copies too. But again, my mind came back. I'm like, Metroid. Yeah, why don't you do Metroid?
Would be dope.
You know, I'm like,
Metroid would be awesome for us to watch, but I'm just saying for what's the point of this from the business side and like Netflix,
the audience
needing a thing.
That.
Yeah,
mainstream doesn't know Metroid.
Metroid's just gonna be like,
That's
all
true.
right, whatever.
Plus,
Zelda is the perfect game when it comes to that. Not that it's gonna make a great show or whatever, but just like it could.
Yeah, it could.
It's
Like,
let
I
me put it
think
this
that
way:
it
it's
has
a lot.
the most of the right things that it needs to work on Netflix for the most people to take a video game, turn it into a thing, and have everybody be as happy as possible.
Well, your budget's definitely going to go a lot farther with a game like Zelda, a property like Zelda, than it is with a Metroid. Metroid, you have to basically be, you can't go out to a forest and just shoot and hire a great team.
Star Fox would be awesome though.
Star Fox would be amazing, but that would be
no CG.
that was the other game. That was honestly the other series that came to mind.
I want a
Just
fox.
puppets?
Yeah, no, not
Just
puppets.
Muppets?
No.
You want an actual fox rolling around a cockpit?
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. is that they have been having a lot of trouble getting Halo off the ground, right?
Halo.
So they tried to do the Halo movie with Neil Blomkamp a long time ago. They went through a lot of directors for that. I can't remember. I forget why it fell apart. But then they had Forward Unto Dawn, which actually was a fairly successful series for them. And then they tried to do their the next show, which was the Spielberg executive produced Halo, which that whole division of the company no longer exists, if I'm not mistaken, right? So if an American-owned company like Microsoft is going to scrutinize their American product that much, how is a seemingly that far removed company like Nintendo that's sitting in Japan and they're making these decisions that as a westernized audience we're like, that's a little off from what we would expect. Yeah. I don't see that working, and I see that more likely dying on the vine.
Exactly, but this is obviously a very different time. But the Zelda cartoon happened. How the fuck that happened?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Nintendo seemed much more open in the late 80s and early 90s, even with Captain N and stuff, to do riskier things. Mm-hmm. I think you're right in this, and I'm glad you brought it up, just in the sense that was another thing that came to mind. I was like, and it wasn't even that how was Nintendo going to not let this happen, but like, how did Netflix and Nintendo even get together? Yeah, because like this doesn't make any sense, and I think it's real, and I think they're talking, and I'm curious about. I think the veracity of the Wall Street Journal article is solid. I think it's real. I'm curious where the conversation is right now. Was it like literally like, hey,
that'd be cool.
Iwata and a few other guys went to dinner with some Netflix guys and they're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting idea. And then they just went back to Kyoto and Netflix went back to California and they were like, okay, that's it. And then someone at Wall Street Journal got wind of it.
At that restaurant, like, wait a minute, I know this.
Or is it something where it's like they've had many meetings and they're talking very seriously about this and they're like, well, what can we do together? And Nintendo of America doesn't seem to have much power. So for this to work for a Western audience, as well as an Eastern audience, which isn't so different when you're consuming TV and movies or really any other kind of entertainment, they have to give the power, as you said, to the producer and the director and Netflix. And I just don't see that happening, because even when Omega Force makes a Musou like Hyrule Warriors, which is a Zelda game that is basically a Dynasty Warriors game, still a Japanese studio. I'm sure Nintendo was fucking all over it, and they knew exactly like what they were getting, and that was a move to get people to buy the game, right? This seems like it fundamentally changes the IP. If a Dynasty Warrior game is known for anything, it's not story, So, like, how do they change this? And are they planning in their mind's eye to say, well, this is going to tie into a game? Or,
I mean, it has to.
So I'm like,
it's
just interesting. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and Nintendo's not going to say anything about it. Tie into a game?
I mean, it depends. If they're talking about it now, they're developing the series. It could take upwards of a year or two to develop, and
you already have a Zelda game going. Like, you can't try to get those on track and get them tied up together.
I don't know. I will say
they don't need to be tied together though, and because it's Zelda. Zelda is one of the.
Well, he was saying that there's a game.
I would say that.
If you're just talking about the Wii U Zelda, then yeah, sure, that's fine.
If someone said, "Hey, there's a Halo series coming out soon," I'd be like, "Okay, you damn sure you're gonna expect something that they can push from a synergetic standpoint of like, okay, there's going to be DLC or something, or a new map pack, or a new Halo game."
Well, that's the thing with Zelda. There is always something to push, whether it's the new game that will come out or the millions of other games that are already out and you can download in their various services.
I'll say this, though. Anyone who has an IP and they're talking to Netflix, that does represent a certain level of forward thinking, out of the box thinking right now, because I think to most of the mainstream audiences, Netflix is still a little bit of a fringe offering, similar to how I'm a firm believer that Amazon is one day going to beat all of these, just because I think that Amazon is a powerhouse that has yet to really flex its muscle. And for some odd reason, Overstock.com is also getting in the content, original content creation and distribution game. Yeah, they were at Sundance and they bought a bunch of stuff, and they're trying to push their platform pretty heavily.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Crazy. Yeah, but those
the O. Fall in love with the O.
A lot of people are trying to get into digital distribution because the smart people realize that's where the audience is. That's where the audience 10 years from now is. That's where the audience really now is. We just haven't really accepted that because there's a lot of old school thinking in Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, if Nintendo's serious about it, that would give me pause to think, wow, maybe this will happen. If there's another report saying, hey, we're developing this, I'm like, this is going to be good, because that means Nintendo's playing ball and they're forward thinking and they want to put something out there that is not, I don't want to say cutting edge, because that would be not the best way to describe it, but something that's forward thinking enough to say, like, we believe that the audience is here and that they will consume this specific type of content. Let's give it to them.
I mean, it's like Marvel doing it with Daredevil. That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah,
like that's a commitment. Huge. That's them saying something, and obviously Marvel gets it.
They get it. Well, Marvel gets it. We've seen in the last couple of days more than anyone else.
But
So well, we'll see how it all turns out. I have a morbid curiosity to see how this turns out because I don't think I agree with you guys that Zelda is the right choice maybe from a marketing standpoint. I don't think it's the right choice for either Nintendo IP stable for storytelling, and I think that if it's all about marketing, just make a fucking Mario show. Woo! You know, just do it. Mario sold what 500 million copies across all of the games, so it's like that's the game. You know,
Mario's harder though. I mean, I
actually don't think in my mind I don't think it would be. With both of these games, you have to write a story that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like Mario specifically, there's no story.
Mario's story, frankly, is exactly the same as Zelda's.
That's true.
It's basically the same.
You're
Rescue
thinking
the princess.
in different terms. What I would if they announce tomorrow they're doing a Mario show, I would immediately skew. It's going to be like the Mickey Mouse Club for kids, the one that's currently out. I don't know if anybody watches it, but when I was in Missouri, there's kids there, so I had to catch a couple episodes. Where it's just Mickey and Minnie doing stupid things and teaching the kids something. That's exactly what it would be.
Yeah, like a Sesame Street style show.
It wouldn't be that there's a story that the princess has been stolen. It's like, oh, today we got Koopa's upset, so let's make him cheered up. What does he like? He likes pizza. We're gonna go get you know what I mean, like stupid stuff.
How do you
like
spell
that.
pizza with a P?
Yeah, exactly.
Z. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? We're running really late.
Well, that's great.
All right. Well, that's great.
Well, that's
fucking shut up, everybody.
Let us know in the comments what you think about this. What story of Zelda you'd want to hear? If you think Zelda's the best franchise for this, or what your favorite franchise you'd want to see as a Netflix show would be. Until next time, this has been the first and last ever episode 7 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Next week will be episode 8 and a little something special. I'm not gonna tease
Oh, right.
I'm letting you know.
Well, hold
it's
on.
cake, isn't it?
Should we say it?
What are you talking about?
Wait, this is
no. If you
time is a weird.
if you're listening to this on Patreon Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, look for something special on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this on Friday, go back and check out the something special on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's gonna be something real special. I'll let you know that. Until next time, I'm Tim Gettys. It's Colin Moriarty. It's Greg Miller. It's Nick Scarpino.
Yo.
Patilla's chilling there.
Chilling.
He's got to poop.
I still love you all.
I gotta poop.
I don't need to poop.
Dog
Maybe
does.
later. No. Cool.
He's been dropping bombs over here.
Bombs.
Metal Gear would be the shit.
Yeah, Metal Gear.
It's funny. That's exactly what I was.
No, I don't know why my brain popped into that, but I want to develop a Metal Gear series. Shows to do.
No. You just ate. Now you're gonna be making goddamn mouth noises.
What is about his mouth noises that you don't like?
The fucking noise. That's what I don't like. Is the noise itself. There's nothing else about it that bothers me.